What you didn't outright like insult people at times, though,
yes.
did you? You did?
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever like scream curses at them?
No.
But you did other things. You had other tactics.
Absolutely. One of my favorites was in December. Every year, December, this would happen.
One of my favorites. Go over there and punch you.
In the first part of December, you'd always get this call. You need to pay your bill. I can't pay my bill. Why can't you pay? It's Christmas. Oh, that's right. This is the year that Christmas was a surprise. Or when I can't pay, it's Christmas. Please explain to me what the birth of Christ has to do with the fact you haven't paid your bill in 6 months. And
so just make them feel bad.
Make it personal. You get at them, because if I politely say, well, would you mind paying your bill? You're going to forget about it. If I do something or say something that gets in your conscious, or your better yet, your subconscious, you're not going to forget the bill.
Is there like a psychological jujitsu that I can turn back on you? If you're a bill collector, like calling me and you're harassing me, is there something that callers would say to you that would really get to you?
No, because
listen up. No?
In the jujitsu, except for the call for Kim Bowers, in your jujitsu frame, most debtors are white belts. I was a black belt.
Yeah.
I promise you, I've made more calls to debtors than you've gotten from collectors. And so I'm more experienced and more practiced, and
karate chop to my wallet. But Pete, are complaints about bill collectors going up or down?
Complaints against debt collectors are on the rise. They've been on the rise since 1977, when the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act was passed. There's never been an industry that's been more complained about than the collection industry, and for good reason. That we were talking about this the other day, that even if 95% of the calls that are made by the collection industry are legal, that still leaves 5%, which could be as many as 50,000 calls a day, violate the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act.
Can you give us one don't? What can a bill collector not do to tease the next segment?
Well, for most folks, they don't realize that debt collectors cannot contact any third party in an effort to collect a debt. There's absolutely no reason in the world for a debt collector to contact a third party in an effort to collect a debt. Now they have an exception where they can contact a third party to try to locate location information, but basically if they call neighbors or friends or other family members, except your spouse, you're married, they can contact your spouse.
A bunch of dotes, and we'll get into it in just a second.
All right.
All righty, and when we come back, a debt collector defends collection agencies. That ought to be good. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to MJ Investigate Debt Collectors. What can you do if you find yourself harassed by collection agencies?
With us today are Deborah and Mary. They say they were harassed around the clock, and they were just intimidated and screamed at and all sorts of things. Mike Flanagan is here. He's a former debt collector, and he was a mean one.
He's reformed now. Attorney Pete Berry is here. And joining us is Roseanne Anderson, Executive Vice President of a company that is the voice of the collection industry, ACA International. Thanks for having the guts to come on here. Complaints are up. I thought things were getting better.
Things are getting better, and it's my
Complaints
pleasure
are up.
to be here.
I thought they were getting better.
Complaints are up, so is the volume of debt in the United States. And I'd like to make clear at this point, I'm here to set the record straight and to give the industry's perspective, as well as the large majority of the consumers in the United States, their perspective about the debt collection industry.
Are we overblowing it here? Is that what you're saying?
I'd say we are definitely overblowing it, and I'd say that we are telling a story that was perhaps true 5 years ago.
Please,
and that
wait a second.
In this day and age, the collection industry is at the cusp of a major change in the entire way that it does business.
How do you know, though, that there's been a change? Because I know from personal experience that there hasn't been a change, at least for me.
With regard to debt collectors?
Yeah, well, with the family member.
All right.
And they were harassed repeatedly.
ACA International is the voice of the collection industry. I'm very proud of this industry, and on top of it, we have launched and have in place a one-stop clearinghouse for consumers who have the kinds of problems that Mary mentioned earlier. That is inappropriate, and we don't condone either what is happening to your family member or what has happened to these individuals.
But is this clearinghouse controlled by by ACA?
It is.
Well,
and
that's kind of self-regulation.
It is self-regulation. It is self-regulation in probably its most immature form.
Pete, what do you think of self-regulation?
Well, I think self-regulation is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, their axe murderers would love to self-regulate if they could too. And the fact of the matter is that this is an industry that's been out of control. It's been out of control since 1977. Congress passed this law to protect consumers, and it's a good law. It's been good for more than 30 years. And I just heard a collection call or saw a transcript of a collection call that happened on June 8th that used the N-word 3 times in that voicemail.
And that is absolutely not condoned. It is illegal behavior. 85% of all complaints are resolved. And I will tell your audience, as well as both here in the studio and at home, that what we really need and what ACA International is about is consumer education. People need to understand what to do immediately if they find themselves in that situation. I am not going to listen to this kind of criticism.
Well, unfortunately, you're going to have to, because our guests here have gone through it. You're on the
but
set.
You
can respond to it. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, if the industry is run on bonus, if there are bonuses in your industry, how are you ever going to regulate this?
Once again, that's a little bit of the former way that the way business was done in the past. Right now, debt collectors as a whole, there are about 154,000 in the United States, and they are definitely paid on a bonus, a commission that is common, but the test for that commission is the number of complaints need to be low or zero.
Should companies do
and you will notice that one of your guests was fired for bad practices, and that reflects the actual.
Were you fired?
I was fired for insubordination. I refused to fire 3 of my staff for violating federal collection laws, which myself, my bosses, and in fact, people she knows personally, the president and the vice president of the company, actually taught me as well. So there's a direct correlation.
Pete, 10 seconds.
Yeah, Mike, if I could just say this, that the industry is regulated. It's regulated by private attorneys like me who bring federal suits under the FDCPA. A consumer has a right to expect truth, fairness, dignity, and respect in all their dealings with debt collectors.
And that's the hallmark of our code of ethics, to treat every consumer with dignity and respect.
Except that your code of ethics has absolutely no teeth. Your code of ethics doesn't have any, they're not the federal government. It's not a federal court. It has no right to shut an agency down.
The self-regulation that is in the works and that is being seriously proposed is the type that's quasi-governmental.
Well, Pete will keep an eye on you.
Go
no
to
question about it.
MNJShow.com, and we're going to ask you guys to go into our green room and tell us a little bit more on our website about how people can deal with a nasty debt collector, because they do exist out there.
Seems like everybody has a story.
Okay, we're here with attorney Peter Barry talking about debt collection agencies and what we can do to avoid being harassed by debt collectors. Peter, what laws are out there to protect us from debt collectors and debt collecting agencies?
Well, principally the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, which is a federal consumer protection statute that prohibits the use of harmful, oppressive, or abusive debt collection tactics in the collection of consumer debts.
And what can we do as consumers to protect ourselves from these people if they come calling?
Well, probably the most important thing a consumer can do is, one, if you can pay your bills, pay your bills. People should pay their just and owing debts. But if you can't, then what you should do is try to document the collection calls if they become abusive or harassing. If you're getting calls at your workplace or you're getting calls to neighbors or family members, those are all illegal things, and a consumer should document those things and find a good attorney through the National Association of Consumer Advocates. That's at NACA.net, NACA.net. There's a list of attorneys in their state that can help them with abusive debt collection practices.
Okay, and also just one more question. What constitutes abuse to just persistent calling? Like, where do you draw the line for people that have just, really are starting? What defines abuse from a collector?
Well, the 4 litmus tests I use in my law practice are this: that a debt collector has to treat you with truth, fairness, dignity, and respect. So any kind of lying, threats of litigation or legal action that the debt collector is not entitled to take, or any other statement designed to embarrass you or shame you, or conduct designed to humiliate you, like calls to the workplace or calls to your employer. Those are all illegal things. The law doesn't really have any bright line tests for how many phone calls are persistent, but it does say that a debt collector who contacts you repeatedly in an effort to collect the debt and engages you in repeated phone conversations for the purpose, no other purpose than to harass you, is violating the law.
Okay, thanks, Peter.